You're listening to the Valued Podcast with Shayne and Luke Wyler.
How do you know whether or not you're in the right opportunity? In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to know whether or not you're in the right opportunity, the difference between pursuing opportunities with discipline and will, and how to make sure you don't step into distractions. Here's our conversation on opportunities.
Welcome to the show. Today, Luke and I thought we'd take some time and talk to you about the sixth module in the LEAD framework. And what that deals with is your opportunities and really understanding where your opportunities are. One of the first things that's really important to define in this conversation of opportunities and fulfilling your purpose is what an opportunity actually is. So in this context of fulfilling your purpose, an opportunity is simply this: everywhere that you are both needed and wanted. Both of those things are key, because there's places in your life where you're needed, but you're not wanted. And likewise, there's places where you're wanted, but you're definitely not needed. So the key in understanding where your opportunities are, the places where you're to fulfill your purpose, are everywhere that you're both needed and wanted. Both of those things need to be there. The next key thing is to understand, well, what is a distraction? For years, I was distracted and I had no idea. I looked around and I saw other people being distracted, and it didn't make sense to me. These people that were highly focused, were setting goals, were achieving success, were still ending up distracted, myself included. And then one day I had this revelation, and I realized that in that distractions are simply opportunities, but they're other people's opportunities. They're not your opportunities. And in stepping into what we think is an opportunity that isn't our opportunity, we actually end up being devalued, because we're in a place that we're not supposed to be. Even if we're trying to do, or even if we are doing the right thing, we're in the wrong place, working with the wrong people. And one of the key things about a distraction is that it's intended to get you off your path, to get you off where you're supposed to be heading to fulfill your purpose, and lure you away. And we get lured away, we get tempted away, because we all want to be a part of cool opportunities, but we don't stop to ask some very key questions to understand, is this my opportunity or is it somebody else's opportunity?
And I was just going to say, distractions don't come from lack of focus. They come from having too much focus on the wrong thing. Really, at the end of the day, what you want to be doing is focusing on only what you're supposed to be doing. It's not about doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's just about really focusing all your time and energy on what you actually should be doing, so that you're not dividing yourself between multiple things that might not even matter.
One of the key things I've noticed over the years is that there's a difference between good, great, and right. So what I often say is, good isn't always great. Great isn't always right, but right is always good and great. Meaning you can get distracted by something that's good. We're often distracted by something that's great. But the truth is, our opportunities lie in what's right for us to do.
Yeah.
And as you step into what's right, it will always be good and great. It will be a win-win situation for you and for those that you are leading. So if you find yourself going towards something and this is a good thing, or you feel this is a great opportunity, you got to stop and you got to think, is this right? So how do you determine? What would you say to somebody who's standing in that position going, okay, well, how do I know what the right thing is? How do I figure that out?
I think it goes back to earlier when you were talking about how an opportunity is everywhere where you are needed and wanted. And I think anywhere where people need you and they want you is where it's going to be right for you to be. If people need your help, but they don't really want you, you're going to be in a situation where, they're always holding it over you that you're lucky to be there in a way, because they could have anybody else there. I mean, in reality, they can't, because you're the one they need. And on the flip side, if they just want you there, but they don't need you there, you're never going to be able to contribute anything great, because you're just there because they want you. So it might feel like you belong there, but at the end of the day, you're just wasting your time because you're not contributing anything that matters.
In leading somebody to get the need answered that you are here to meet in their life, there is work that they have to do. So they might want you there for whatever reason, but if they're not willing to do the work to answer that need and move from like point A to point B that you are trying to help them move to where they're stuck, it's not going to turn out. It's going to be one-sided. You're going to end up pulling people along, wasting energy, wasting resources, hitting burnout, because you're having to do the work for two people. And at the end of the day, that other person or a group of people, they just really don't want to do the work. So that's one of the key pieces, is that they have to, one, recognize that they have the need, and they have to want to actually answer that need and move beyond whatever they need to do. That's one of the key pieces. So some of the stuff that we teach to help you understand where your opportunities are asking key questions like, where are you needed? Take a look at the need that you recognize. And if you didn't hear that episode, go back, listen to the episode where we talk about how do you clarify your purpose? Because in that, there is a need that you are here to meet. So where does that need show up in people's lives? And then there's something that those people want. Where does that show up in their life? And where those two pieces meet is where your opportunities are going to be. Because you're going to see the need everywhere you go. You're going to see that people want this particular thing that you can help them get. But in that, if that want and that need don't come together, because needs and wants are two very different things, but they work together to let you know where your opportunities actually are.
Something that I want to talk a little bit about is passion. So the opportunities that you want to be involved in, those are things that you're passionate about. That's why you want to be there. And that's why it's super easy to get stuck in opportunities where you're not actually needed. It doesn't really matter whether or not you're there, but you want to go there anyways, simply because you want to be there, because that's what you're passionate about. And the important thing to realize is that's not bad. It's not bad to want to do what you're passionate about, because, we all have passions. The important thing to remember is when you're pursuing those passions, you need to check to make sure that you're stepping into an opportunity within that where you're also needed, because guaranteed in anything that you're passionate about, there's going to be a spot where you want to be there and where you need to be there. So it might not look exactly what you thought it was going to look like, but there is a spot where you're needed as well. So I think it's just super important to make sure that you're needed within your passion as well, because that's going to really affect the longevity of it. If you just pursue something because you want to do it, it's not going to last very long. And I mean, the longer it lasts, the more destructive it's going to be, because you're focusing on something that doesn't really matter when your help is needed somewhere else. So if you want to be able to do what you're passionate about for a long time, you need to make sure that you're in a place where you can not only do what you want to do, but also meet the need that you're there to meet. So you just got to look for those opportunities, wait for those opportunities to do what you want to do and what you need to do. It's super important to be where you want to be as well, because if you're just where you need to be, you're not going to want to be there, obviously. And you're going to do a pretty terrible job while you're there, because those people need your help, but you really don't want to be there. So you're going to be dragging your feet a little bit, and you're not going to be a lot of help to anybody, because most of the fight is just going to be continuing to force yourself to stay there.
I think you hit on one of the things that, oftentimes when we're exploring opportunities, it's one-sided. We're either looking at it going, where do I need and want to be? Or where do others need and want me? And in that, you're missing a key piece. Both of those things need to come together. Where your biggest opportunities are where others need and want you, and where you need and want to be.
Yeah.
Both of those things need to come together, because like you said, if you don't want to be there, it's going to be hell for you and for them, right? That's where, and I would love for you to talk a little bit about this, because we have been chatting about this a lot recently, the difference between will and discipline, because I think everywhere that you don't want to be, but others need and want you, you have to inflict discipline on yourself in order to do what you need to do, as opposed to the other place where you're needed and wanted and you need and want to be there. That's will. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
I think you definitely laid it out quite well when you said that in order to be somewhere where you don't really want to be or need to be, you need to use quite a bit of discipline to keep yourself there. And I mean, we all know that we can achieve some pretty great things with discipline and consistency. The important thing to remember, though, is, do you actually want to be there? Do you actually need to be there? Because you could spend 10, 20, 50 years doing something and get really great at it, achieve amazing things. But I mean, you always got to ask yourself, was it worth it? No matter how amazing it was it actually worth it? And the only way it's actually going to be worth it to you and to everybody else is if you actually wanted to do that and needed to do that, and if everybody else wanted and needs you to do that. So it's quite different from will, in that if you want to be there and you need to be there, then of course you're going to have the will to be there, because there's nowhere else for you to be. That's just the only place where you can even see yourself, and you're willing to do the work and fight the fight to be there, because you know that you just have to be there.
When we are both standing in those places, and where everyone else that we've taught stands in that place, they have enough passion, they have enough will to do whatever it takes to do that for the person and lead them from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things. We are on journey. We are there standing alongside that person, helping them get from not having that need met to having that need met. And in that takes will.
Very interesting thing about that is you can achieve the same results with will and discipline. The difference is the way you get there. And I think most people, myself included, fall prey to the lie that it's all about the results. So you just do whatever it takes to get that end result that you want. But the truth is, I mean, if you think about it, the result is a fraction of the time that the journey there is. So, I mean, you could argue that the result is what you were aiming for in the first place, so it's the most important. But you have to admit that the journey is 1,000 times longer than the result. So, of course, the journey has to matter. The way you get to the result has to matter, because if it doesn't, then you can live your life any way you want and it doesn't really matter. But we all know that's not true. It's not about getting to your last moments and achieving that however you want to go. It's about the actual life that you live. That's what makes you who you are. It's not about the stuff that you achieve. It's about how you do it, really. The other thing about discipline versus the will is that discipline focuses you on that last moment at the end, the result. And because you're focused on that moment, you actually miss every other moment before it. which is so much different than will, because will, you're just focusing on whatever moment you're actually in. The moment 100 years from now, 10 years from now, 10 minutes from now, doesn't really matter because you're not there yet. And when you're focused on the moment that you're in, that's all that really matters. And that any moments past that might not even happen, or they might not look how you think they will. And so when you get stuck in discipline, get stuck on focusing on that one last moment, any other moment up till that is actually misery, because you don't want to be there. You just want to be 10 years from now. And if you actually get to that one moment and it's not exactly what you dreamed it would be, then all those 10 years is a waste. Focusing on the moment that you're in right now, that's the moment you're meant to be in right now. You know that for sure. The moment you're in right now, you're meant to be there because you're there. So focus on that. Live in the moment that you are in right now, because if you try to spend this moment looking for a better moment, looking for a good opportunity, looking for a great opportunity, then you're going to miss what you have right now, because guaranteed there is some kind of opportunity in the moment you're in right now. An opportunity that you're meant to have. Guaranteed it's somewhere. You just have to look.
Well, in that too, you're going to see, okay, I want more of this or I want less of this. If you're not present in that moment, you could continue down a path where you're not supposed to be and end up hating every single moment that you're in because you didn't take the time to go, what's happening right now? Is this helping me realize my purpose or not? If you're thinking about the next thing, you can't actually make that real-time assessment. And that's where people go astray all the time, is we're so busy looking into the future, and I'm pointing my fingers at myself. Spent so much of my life looking into the future. As a visionary, that's where I tend to focus. And I've had to learn how to go, I'm going to cast my sight into this moment right now and pay attention right now to what's actually going on, to listen and really assess, how am I doing right now? Am I actually, even as we're talking right now, are we actually helping others fulfill their purpose or not in this conversation? We need to assess that. And the only way to assess that is to be present in this moment and go, what are we actually talking about? Because there's a bunch of stuff that we've talked about that will never be heard because we go, no, that wasn't it. And we'll cut that stuff out. And it's really important as we step into opportunities to pay attention, because it really is a really narrow road. And there's so many distractions on either side of that pathway that can catch our glance and take us astray.
Yeah.
And then the very people that we are to lead and help never get the help because we got distracted.
Yeah.
That's a tragedy.
And like I said, it's often the opportunities that we want to be in that distract us the most. And that is really hard to come to terms with, because a lot of us build our lives around doing what we want to do. And the thing you have to remember is that's not wrong, but you have to make sure that that's anchored in doing what you need to do and doing what others need and want you to do, because that's where you're going to really thrive. Because if you just try to do what you want to do, you can achieve good things, you can achieve great things, but you're not really going to be able to thrive there, because there's so many needs that are not being met. You're just where you want to be. So in order to really thrive somewhere, in order to really grow and achieve all that you can achieve, you have to not only do what you want to do, what you're passionate about, but you have to look for those opportunities where you can do what you're passionate about and what you want to do, but also what you need to do, meeting that need in other people's lives, fulfilling your purpose and doing what those people need and want you to do. Like, those people need you to meet that need in their life. And of course they want you to do that because they're struggling. They need your help. And you need to help them. That's just the reality of it. But you can't help them if you don't want to be there. You're never going to be able to help them in the best way that you can if you don't want to be there, because then you're just going to be using discipline. You need to find those opportunities where you want to be there and where you need to be there, because if you're not passionate about it and if you don't need to be there, then it really doesn't matter. If you aren't needed there, then you're just wasting your time. And if you're not passionate about it, you're also wasting your time, because you're spending 80% of it dragging yourself along.
When I look back over my my acting career, it feels so long ago. But when I remember, and I know I've shared this story with you, I've shared it with others, but I think it's worth saying again that I remember shooting the ending of 13 Ghosts, and it happened on 9/11. We were shooting that as the World Trade Centers were collapsing. And I remember watching on the television that was on set. We were all sort of sitting around and watching this horrific thing happen. And I was looking around at what I was doing, not we, I. And in that moment, I looked at it and I said, basically, I don't think this is where I'm supposed to be. What I'm doing right now isn't going to achieve the impact that I want to make, especially as the world is changing in front of us. I need to change things up, because I'm not going to be able to do what I need to do doing what I'm doing right now. And it changed my life. And I continued to act for, 3, 4, 5 years after that. And when I look back now, I was exercising discipline in order to keep going.
Yeah. Well, and I think if we all think about it long enough, we all have moments in our life like that, where we just realize, something big happens and we realize, I'm just sitting here doing this. Like, I thought this was so important, and now that this is happening, like, I just realize how small I am. And I can tell you there's been a lot of times when I've been so focused on something, overly obsessed with something, that turned out to be a distraction. And I didn't realize that until something very big happened in front of me. And I just realized how small not only I was, but how small the thing I was chasing was. And in the face of what's happening, just how meaningless it was. And it's just quite humbling to be in those moments and realize that what you're doing really means nothing in the face of something so big. And if you continue to stay in that place, you're never going to be able to make any kind of difference.
Well, and the interesting part of the rest of that story is, years later, I was on one of the last films that I ever acted in, and I almost died in a snowstorm coming back from the set. And in that I went, okay, this isn't worth it anymore. Like, this is ridiculous. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And that, after that happened, all of the stuff that we are teaching now started to show up. And I started to take steps down that road. And I just think it's really interesting. And just like you said, all of us, I don't want you or, the rest of my children or anybody that I can help along the way to ever have to go through something that dramatic to get woken up to go, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And that's why these tools that we teach can be applied so that you don't have to get to those moments in order to make that shift and realize that you're in a distraction. It doesn't have to be life or death, right? You can honestly look at every situation you're in and go, am I needed and am I wanted here?
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
Yeah.
And if you are, engage in it. If you're not, then wait until you are, because guaranteed, like you said, there is a place where you are needed and wanted. Go there. because you could wait a whole lifetime and never be needed and wanted in that place that you want to be needed and wanted in. And you've just wasted your entire life. It's not worth it. Be where you're needed and wanted in the small and big places. That's the scary place to be.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're going to be called up to be the leader that you need to be to help someone in need that really wants your help.
Yeah, well, and there's no room to hide when you're the leader in the situation, because people need you, they want you, they rely on you. And when you're in that position, you have to step up and you have to deliver on what you promise. And the thing is, I know that's scary, but you can do it, because if you're standing where you're supposed to be, you're there because of who you are. You're there because, you're the leader in that situation. You're the person who's meant to be there. So it can be hard and it's challenging, but it's not impossible. And it doesn't take discipline to do that. It just takes will.
Well, and the key thing in there, again, if you haven't listened to our episode on clarifying your purpose or taken our free course on how to clarify your purpose, I'm asking you to go take it. I'm asking you to go listen to that, because here's the key.
It's like self-marketing.
I don't care. I'm passionate about people knowing their purpose, and I know you are too, in terms of them fulfilling their calling. So I can boldly say that and ask you to do that, or you wouldn't be listening to this podcast.
Well, I mean, when you own the podcast, you can say whatever you want. But anyways, carry on with what you were saying.
The key in that is this, that when you know why you're here, you can deliver on that promise. So many of us make promises we can't keep because we're not supposed to deliver on that promise.
Yeah.
But when I know I'm here to help you realize your purpose, I know that I can deliver on that promise, and I'm capable of doing that. And I spend my life trying to figure out how to do that better and better and better.
Mm-hmm.
And I can deliver on that promise. But there's many promises that many of us have made, and we fail that because we're not supposed to deliver on that promise. That's somebody else's job, and we tried to steal it from them for whatever reason. Because we wanted to be, at the end of the day, we just wanted to be a part of a cool opportunity. But it wasn't our opportunity. So here's one of the key things that really needs to be expressed in terms of understanding where your opportunities are. Opportunities are given. They're not created. I really need to say that again. Opportunities are given. They're not created. We think we have the ability to create opportunities and make opportunities for ourselves. That's us standing in discipline, making something happen that isn't supposed to happen. There's the perfect amount of opportunities that are going to be given to you for you to focus on for the rest of your life and make the impact that you need to make as a leader and be valued in the lives of those that you are supposed to lead and serve. Receive the opportunities that are given to you. So the key thing to remember is that opportunities are everywhere that you are needed and wanted. Everywhere else is a distraction. And so we really encourage you to just take a look at where you're engaging as a leader, at home, in your workplace, with your company, in your community, and ask yourself, am I actually needed and wanted here? And if you're not, just note that. Some places you're going to be able to step back right away. Other places you're going to have to do that more slowly. But just disengage where you're not needed and wanted in whatever that looks like. And engage where you are needed and wanted. Because in that, your value is going to be known by others. And you're going to be able to do more of those things where you're needed and wanted. And you're actually doing a service to other people by stepping out where you're not needed and wanted, so that the right person can step in. Oftentimes we think, oh, there's a hole, I should step in. I should step in. But you're actually stepping on somebody else's toes. Because we as people, especially as Canadians, we don't necessarily step in when someone else is there. I think that's true for all of us as human beings. We don't necessarily want to rock the boat, or we don't, want to step on somebody else's toes. We don't want to steal something else from somebody else. But if they're not the right person in that position, or we're not the right person in that position, then we need to be the leader and step out of that position so the leader can step in. And that can happen moment to moment. There may be moments where you're needed right then, and then the next moment you're not, and it's somebody else's turn. This is what we're talking about, to give everybody their place to actually step up and lead, and not have to feel like their value is changed because they did their job and now it's done. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. We all have our place to do our job and then step out so somebody else can do the next step. There's going to be people in your life that are going to be there for the entire time. There's going to be people that come and go because those opportunities come and go. That's all that's changing, is the opportunity. That's it. If we stay in a place too long, it can easily become a distraction. And as you said, Luke, we can cause harm because we've stayed too long. Because we no longer can help, because we're no longer needed and wanted. That doesn't mean we won't be needed and wanted in the future. But in that moment, we need to go, actually, I'm not needed and wanted now. Awesome. I'm going to go where I am needed and wanted. Let me know when you need some more help. It's really that simple.
Leadership is hard, which is why the Valued Podcast is here for you. Realize your purpose and be the valued leader you need to be everywhere you go. So if today's episode blessed you in any way, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Then head over to wcompany.ca to see how our on-demand courses and live events teach you how to be valued in all your key relationships, at home, work, in your community, and beyond. Thank you so much for listening. Let's get you valued everywhere you go.